She is the richest woman in the world, more than $88 billion, the first woman ever to cross the 100 billion mark. But her story is anything but a fairy tale. This is the story of Françoise Bettencourt Meyers, a story of inheritance and betrayal, of Nazi collaboration and Jewish rebirth, of mother versus daughter, and of the biggest beauty empire on earth. Welcome to The Undivided Story. To understand how Françoise became so rich, we need to go back to 1907, to a small apartment in Paris where a 26-year-old chemist named Eugène Schuller was inventing something revolutionary. Schuller had solved a problem women had struggled with for centuries: safe hair dye. Until then, people used dangerous chemicals like lead and sulfuric acid. The result? Damaged hair, burns, and sometimes even death. But Schuller developed L'Oreal, the first synthetic safe hair dye. He sold it directly to Parisian hairdressers, worked day and night in his kitchen laboratory. And in 1909, he officially founded the Société Française de Teinture Inoffensive pour Cheveux, the future L'Oreal. The company grew explosively. In 1934, Schuller launched the first soap-free shampoo. In 1935 came Ombre Solaire, the first sunscreen oil with a filter. He was a visionary, a genius, but also something else. What many people don't know, Eugène Schuller was a Nazi sympathizer. In the 1930s, he financed La Cagoule, a violent fascist anti-Semitic movement. He even let them meet at L'Oreal headquarters. This group carried out political assassinations, burned down 6 synagogues, and smuggled illegal weapons. During World War II, Schuller collaborated with the Vichy regime. He actively helped seize Jewish property. He allowed synagogues to be destroyed. And after the war, he gave several members of La Cagoule senior positions at L'Oreal. This is the man who built the fortune. This is the foundation on which everything stands. His only daughter, Liliane, inherited the empire in 1957. She and her husband, André Betancourt, who wrote anti-Semitic propaganda during the war, built L'Oreal into a world power. And then came Françoise. Born on July 10, 1953, in Neuilly-sur-Seine, the only child of Liliane Betancourt, raised in unimaginable wealth, but also in the shadow of a dark past. As a child, Françoise attended Marymount International School, a Catholic school run by Anglo-Saxon nuns of the Sacré-Cœur. There she learned, as Paris Match wrote, to be impressed by nothing. But Françoise was not the stereotype of the billionaire's daughter. While her mother lived in luxury and jet-set glitter, Françoise sought quiet. She played piano for hours, read books, wrote about Greek mythology and the Bible. She started studying mathematics at the university, but quit fairly quickly. Her heart was in theology and literature, in old stories, and the big questions of faith and humanity. Her father was a minister under Charles de Gaulle in the 60s and 70s. Her mother moved among the highest levels of French society. But Françoise, she withdrew into her own world. She was sometimes homeschooled for security reasons. Wealth made her family a target, riches isolated her, and in that isolation, she began to write. Later, she would publish multiple books: Les Dieux Grecs, a genealogy, The Greek Gods, Genealogies, a complete study of the family trees of the Olympian gods, and her magnum opus, Regards sur la Bible, a look at the Bible. 5 thick volumes, with an introduction by Alain Decaux, one of France's most respected historians. The first volume was about words and expressions that came from the Bible. The second about the similarities and differences between Judaism and Catholicism. The third about the genealogy of Adam and Eve and the tribes of Israel. The fourth about animals, plants, measures, money, and numbers in the Bible. And the fifth was a complete genealogical section. The book won the 2009 Prix des Lauriers Verts in the spirituality category. And all royalties, she donated to Doctors Without Borders. This wasn't a hobby, this was her passion. Her life. As one source put it, she's a very modest person, more comfortable with her piano and her books than with the worlds of big business and finance. And then she met Jean-Pierre Meyers. They had actually known each other since childhood, but when she was 19, they saw each other differently. He came from a wealthy family of French Jewish bankers. His father even worked as a manager at L'Oreal. But there was one problem, a big problem. Jean-Pierre was the grandson of Rabbi Robert Meyers, and Rabbi Meyers was murdered in Auschwitz, along with his wife. The granddaughter of a Nazi collaborator wanted to marry the grandson of a Holocaust victim. The families were shocked. There was resistance, especially from Liliane's side. How could this be? How dare she? But Françoise waited. If someone had wanted to marry me only for my money, I would have seen it, she later said in a rare interview with Le Monde. I waited a long time for my husband, and I know it wasn't the money that attracted him. We've known each other since we were in diapers. After 10 years of waiting and resistance, they finally married on April 6, 1984, in Tuscany, far from Paris, far from the family. And then Françoise made a decision that sent shockwaves through everyone. She converted to Judaism. The granddaughter of Eugène Schuller, the man who had allowed synagogues to burn, became Jewish. She studied the Torah, embraced the traditions, released her Catholic upbringing. And their 2 sons, Jean-Victor and Nicolas, were raised Jewish, with bar mitzvahs, with full tradition. It was as if Françoise was trying to make amends for her grandfather's sins, as if through her own transformation, she could illuminate the darkness of the past. She rarely spoke about it, but the symbolism was unmistakable. Years passed. Françoise lived quietly. She played piano every day for hours, classical music mostly. She read, she wrote, she joined L'Oreal's board of directors in 1997 but stayed in the background. She lived in a modern two-story home with large windows, relatively modest compared to the massive mansion where her parents lived in the heart of the St. James district in the exclusive suburb of Neuilly-sur-Seine. Her mother Liliane lived the high society life. Gala, artists, party, the jet set. Françoise avoided it all. She had a small circle of friends, long-term friendships, French actress and soprano Ariel Dombasle, Alain and Claude Pompidou, her cousins, French pharmaceutical executive Jean-Marie Lefebvre. She really lives in her own cocoon, said Tom Sankton, author of The Bettencourt Affair. She lives mostly within the boundaries of her own family. People called her withdrawn, reclusive, but maybe she was simply careful, because as her mother once said, beyond a certain amount, people go crazy over money. And Françoise had seen what money did to people. In 2007, her father André died, and exactly 1 month later, Françoise discovered something shocking. A man named François-Marie Bagnier, a photographer and writer, 40 years younger than her mother, had received enormous sums from Liliane. Gifts, money, art. Bagnier had known Salvador Dali and Yves Saint Laurent in his youth. He had worked with Samuel Beckett, photographed Kate Moss, hung out with Mick Jagger, and was even the godfather of Lily Rose Depp, daughter of Johnny Depp. He was charming, charismatic, and he had Liliane completely under his spell. In total, Bagnier received more than 1.3 billion euros from Liliane, a Picasso, a Matisse, a Mondrian, several life insurance policies, and another €1 billion stood to be added in the will. Françoise was furious. She saw how this man took advantage of her elderly mother, manipulated her, isolated her from the family. It was as if my mother had been pulled into a cult, Françoise later said, by a guru who cut me off from my own family. She lived literally across the street from her mother, but she could barely see her. Bagnier controlled everything, so Françoise made a drastic decision. She filed a lawsuit, accused Bagnier of abus de faiblesse, abuse of weakness, and she started legal proceedings to have her mother declared mentally unfit. But here's where it gets complicated, because to prove her case, Françoise did something many found shocking. She secretly had her mother recorded, by the butler. Hours of conversations were taped without Liliane knowing, and when those recordings became public, everything exploded. The Bettencourt Affair, one of the biggest scandals in modern France, because those tapes didn't contain only conversations about Bagnier. They also contained talks about illegal political donations, tax evasion, black money accounts in Switzerland. Eric Wirth, the Minister of Budget at the time, was implicated. His wife had worked for Liliane. Did he try to protect her in exchange for campaign donations? The scandal nearly toppled the government. It dominated French news for years. But the worst, the relationship between mother and daughter was completely destroyed. Liliane felt betrayed. Her own daughter had her wiretapped, violated her privacy, humiliated her in court. In 2008, Liliane declared, "I never want to see my daughter again." A lawyer in the case put it bluntly. The mother slaughtered the daughter, and the daughter then slaughtered the mother. It was a war, merciless, painful, public. In 2011, Françoise partially won. The court appointed her and her 2 sons as guardians of Liliane's financial affairs. Her mother was placed under legal protection, and in 2015 came the verdict. Bagnier was found guilty. He received a prison sentence and was ordered to pay €158 million in damages. On appeal, this was reduced to a suspended 4-year sentence and a lower compensation. Françoise had won, but the cost was high because mother and daughter never spoke again. On September 21st, 2017, Liliane Bettencourt died at age 94 at the family home in Neuilly, surrounded by caretakers. Françoise was not there. Her net worth? $39.5 billion. Everything went to Françoise, the sole heir, and 1/3 of all L'Oreal shares, the estates, the house on the Brittany coast, the island in the Seychelles, the art collection, everything. But something happened no one expected. L'Oreal's shares skyrocketed, their valuation surged. In 6 years, her wealth tripled. Françoise became vice chairwoman of L'Oreal. Her son took board positions. Jean-Pierre, her husband, became chairman of Tethys Invest, the family holding that manages the shares. And in December 2023, it happened. Françoise Bettencourt Meyers became the first woman in the world with more than $100 billion. $88.2 billion today, the second richest woman in the world, the richest in Europe, the 12th richest person on earth. But here's the interesting part. Françoise is not a typical billionaire. No super yacht, no gold. She still lives in the same modern 2-story home. Large windows, relatively modest. Every day she plays piano, for hours. Classical pieces, Bach, Mozart, Beethoven, the music she played as a child. She reads books on theology, philosophy, history. She avoids social events, gives almost no interviews, has no public persona. She is withdrawn, people say, but maybe she's simply herself. Because while other billionaires flaunt their wealth, Françoise uses hers differently. When Notre Dame burned in 2019, she was one of the first to respond. Together with L'Oreal, she donated $226 million for the restoration, $100 million from her own foundation, the Bettencourt Meyers founded in 1987, led by Françoise herself. Its annual budget, €250 million, 55% goes to scientific research and educational projects, 33% to humanities and social sciences, 12% to culture and art. She funds young scientists, supports innovative projects in biology, supports fundamental research, promotes music and arts, and she has a personal mission, hearing research. For 15 years, she has dedicated herself to helping people with hearing problems. She even co-authored a book, L'Audition pour les nuls, Hearing for Dummies. She supports projects that promote women in science, education in disadvantaged neighborhoods, humanitarian causes. During the COVID pandemic in 2020, she and L'Oreal donated $25 million and produced free hand sanitizer. It's as if she is atoning for her family's past, for the synagogues her grandfather let burn, for the Jewish families who were persecuted, by becoming Jewish, by raising her children Jewish, by doing good with money born from darkness. And now, in February 2025, Françoise has made a major decision. At 71, she is stepping down as vice chairwoman of L'Oreal after 28 years on the board. After nearly 3 decades of quiet but strategic involvement, her son, Jean-Victor Meyers, is taking over as vice chairman. The new generation, 38 years old, trained in business, groomed for this role since childhood. "I'm not leaving L'Oreal," Françoise said. "I'm only leaving the board of directors. My commitment to my grandfather's legacy remains unchanged. The empire continues to grow, 35 international brands, and Françoise, she now devotes herself fully to philanthropy, to science, to art, to doing good with a fortune born from darkness."